Faces and Heels Podcast. One handsome devil. Your host, Jack Purcell. Scissor me, daddy ass. Louis Perry, your co-host. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell. Faces and Heels Podcast.
Welcome to the Faces and Heels Podcast on another glorious Tuesday night with Angry Geek Louis Perry, ink-slinging Jack Purcell. The blackest night falls from the skies, the darkness glows, and all light dies. And tonight on our podcast, our special guest is Logan Black.
Whoa! Do you know what, Jack? I mean, all hail to the king, baby. I'm going to let that intro slide because Logan and I have known each other for a very, very long time. He was one of the nicest guys to ever beat me up, going back like 9 years. I mean, when I had my little old show, run around on just one station, not being all on Amazon and Roku like we are today, but it's not about me. This is about Logan. But, I mean, he's been on Angry Geeks many, many times, just hanging out, beating me. I mean, just hanging out, me being interviewed and everything. But I'm going to tell you, if anyone should be signed, if anyone should be teaching anybody, it's this cat right below. And I love watching him live because he and I, we would banter. And even the last time that I seen him live, I said something to him while he was wrestling. The crowd was dead silent. And Logan, do you remember what you said?
You got to remember I get hit in the head a lot. So,
all right. So let me paint a picture for you of the kind of relationship Logan and I have. He was just hammering away on this poor guy. I can't remember who it was. He was chopping. The crowd is sitting there cheering on Logan. One more time. Everybody's quiet. This poor kid's chest is just lit up red. And I just yelled again. One more time. Logan just looks at me. Don't call my spots, buddy. Then winks at me and hits the guy one more time. And dude, thank you so much for hanging out with me and Jack tonight. I mean, so much respect for you, man. I love you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the intro and all the kind words and all that. And I'm stoked to be here. Like you guys are always a blast to talk to at shows. Now we get to have a nice, fun group chat all together and talk about some fun stuff.
All the fun stuff. And I tried to weave in a little Black Knight oath there for you. I wasn't sure if Louis recognized it. We always talk about the Green Lantern oath, but I was working in the Black Lantern oath for you.
No, I got you. See, I don't have the green screen up tonight because whenever Logan was on Angry Geeks, he always, I Skyping in. He was talking about the Geek Lair and the toys. So I want to take that down. Hey, we got some comments coming in already.
All right. Jacob says, hey guys, happy to be able to join you live again. Hope you guys are all doing well. Eric Hunting, one of our super fans. What's up, fellas?
There you go.
What's going on, Eric and Jacob?
So, Logan, I got a quick question for you.
Go for it.
You are a teacher. You're a sensei. You have your own dojo. You're training people. When you are training people, do you come up with their names? Their surnames, or do you let your students do it?
That's a great question. I don't come up with anything for anybody. I like to one of my big things when it comes to training anybody is kind of letting their own creativity shine and letting them get to be what they see in themselves, or at least a part of themselves. So they they all come to us with names. Certainly, like, there are certain things where I'm like, that's that's not good. Or like it's rare that I'll say that, but if like someone will come with something ridiculous and I'll be like, I don't know about that. But I will, when they come to me with ideas or suggestions, I'll throw ideas back at them and a lot of stuff. And, to their credit, they're all the kids that, train under me are ridiculously creative, way more creative than, I could ever imagine myself to be, or that I was that early in the game. But they're all super creative, come up with their own characters, their own ideas, their own promos. It's a different generation. These kids are really awesome. All of them. Not even just, my guys, but like anybody that I see on the road, the younger generation of wrestlers are also motivated and also full of life and wanting to create their own brands. But yeah, I think the best way to go about it is never to throw something at them, unless you've got somebody who comes in and he's 6'8" and built like an Adonis, and he wants to name himself like Little Jimmy whatever, and I'm like, nah, you're not little. You're a monster, my friend. There's
right.
money to leave it on the table.
The reason why I was asking is because we're friends, old acquaintances. So I wanted to ask you this first time ever on Faces and Heels, and I want you to give Jack and then myself, because you known us both for a long time, give us both wrestling names.
Oh, geez.
Okay? Yes, and I was saving this all day long. I'm sitting in my office at work, and I'm like, oh my God, this is a perfect question for Logan. I got to ask him. If it's anybody that I've known that was in the squared circle, it has to be him. I want to ask the King of Chaos. I got to ask him to name Jack and I.
See, so now here's the thing. Names is such a weird thing because,
Well, see, because you know me, you know what I do.
Names could be anything, but I think gimmicks are really what the important.
Okay, there you go. So if you were going to give me a gimmick and give Jack a gimmick, what would our gimmicks be?
Lou, if I had to go with you, it would probably be, like I'd have to capitalize on you being outspoken and not holding back, speaking your mind. And I'm thinking along the lines of like first thing that comes to mind is immediately a Jimmy Hart, fast talking, loud, always got something to say, and we're there.
Okay, I can dig it.
Yeah, that's Well, now thinking about it, usually whenever I've run into you, it's been in like Western Massachusetts, but that area of Western Massachusetts is technically southwestern Massachusetts. So I would say the mouth of Massachusetts South. Lou Parker. There you go. The mouth of Massachusetts South, Lou Parker.
Nice.
Okay, perfect.
Now, Jack's a bit harder because Jack is real chill, but insanely talented with what he does and dedicated and always has something new and creative every time that I see him. Which, again, creativity is such an incredible thing, but also just putting somebody out there as a creative, what do you do with that? But if we turn the volume up on, what people perceive to be an artist, I say we take Jack's hair, we flip it all to one side, cover one eye with it, kind of like the emo look, but also but still keep like the puffiness on the other side. So it's just like, what the hell is this guy doing with his hair?
Lewis is accusing you.
We kind of turn you into this like tortured artist, a la like an Andy Warhol if he was clinically like insane. Just playing that again because we know that you got the skills and you got the motivation and all that, but like, what do people perceive as an artist? Nobody's going to want to see a talented artist in the wrestling ring because how do you paint in a wrestling ring? How do you draw in a wrestling ring? But what they can see is the attitude that they perceive. So therefore, here we go. We're gonna go with see that Nick, I've got the name in my head. We're good. We're gonna go with Jackson Parker.
Okay.
Jax, but I'm trying to think of a nickname to run with. We can't say the artist because that's like weak and stupid. But it's got to be like I'm trying to think of like a word that would be like this is the so like an artist that believes that they are above being an artist, kind of, and all that's coming to me now is like a Kanye West who is like that's the kind of like loony that like I'm thinking. But that's a personality that people will either go, I connect with this insanity, or I hate this insanity, and as long as they're caring about you in some way, that's where you're going to make money. Yeah, Jackson Parker. And we can think of a nickname at another time period.
That's
But
great.
All right,
there
perfect.
go your gimmicks and your names.
All right.
I like the Andy Warhol reference too. Axel says, "How's it going, gentlemen?" And I'm embarrassed to tell you this, Logan, but I thought I was gonna try to follow in your footsteps and be a pro wrestler when I was much younger, and my lame ass came up with Jack the Ripper. That was my gimmick.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that you're not the only Jack the Ripper in professional wrestling. There's probably like a billion of them,
right?
And they all think that they're the only one.
Right.
Hey, Chris Amaral says, "I love the names."
All right.
Well, thank you, Chris.
Logan, how long has it been for you being in the ring?
Jeez, I'm coming up. August will be. Jeez, how old am I? August will be 17 years.
17 years.
Yeah, it's been a long while, and I mean, granted, I spent a long while of that kind of not doing things the right way or not, listening to the wrong people. But I think that my experience in the time that I really did put in, goes to show in what my output is and the places that I've worked and the student more than anything the students that I've helped to produce.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to bring that up to you too, because I'm not a math guy, but I was kind of going through and trying to add it up, and I came up to 17 years. I've been in the education field for 23 years, and nobody's beating the shit out of me on a daily basis, and I'm not getting, hurt all the time. And sometimes I wonder if I can get up the next day. So kudos to you for being able to do something like this and have that kind of longevity. It really does speak to your work ethic and your passion for the business.
I appreciate that. It's I'll tell you, I'm certainly feeling the effects of 17 years at this point. To the point where I'm kind of like, hey, I'm gonna slow down because I kind of need it, because there are certain shows that I drive up to, I get out of the car, and I'm just like, man, I am going to feel this on the drive home, regardless of like whether I take one bump or 50 bumps. We're at that point, but again, I think my bigger legacy is putting it through all these kids who are putting that work in and using my name to help better themselves.
Yeah, because we've had a couple of your star pupils as guests, and I mean we've admired their in-ring work and largely they have you to thank for that. But we've had Angelo Carter and Joseph Alexander on, and I just got to see Joseph Alexander at Grind this past Friday against Mike Skyros, and those guys had chemistry. It was a great match.
Yeah, I mean, Joe is, I think, such a unique talent. I mean, I think a lot of my kids are unique in every one of their ways, and I think Joe and Angelo are two of the most unique that I have, not just like in their in-ring abilities, but in the fact that like, you can teach somebody how to take bumps. You could teach somebody how to turn character up and, how to cut like a proper wrestling promo. But you can't teach hard work, and you can't teach motivation. And that's the thing about Joe and Angelo, is that Angelo always says it like, my basement was like his home for a good, 6 months.
Yeah,
because
he
literally
told us that.
Yeah, he literally would stay here like before, bookings, and, just to make sure that he was up in time and ready to go. So he was always here. He's always in my back seat, just like, all right, where are we going? All right, great. Let's go. And, it goes to show. And Joe was no different. Joe was, I'm going to go everywhere. I'm going to work everywhere. I'm going to take every opportunity that I can. And, it's paying off for both of them. Joe is really on a trajectory upward, as is Angelo. I think, Joe, you're going to see start to really reach like the more noticeable heights sooner, because Joe also got a bit of a head start. But yeah, there's a lot of kids waiting in the wings to like really, really pick up the slack of like everybody else who's like stepping up and moving on past, T2T Wrestling Academy. I've got so many waiting in the wings and, working so hard week in, week out. And, hopefully at some point you'll have those guys on too.
Yeah, no, absolutely, 100%. I think that it's really interesting for me to think about, hearing you speak and knowing what you're doing with all these guys and the quality that you're turning out is one thing. It's one thing to be a teacher, like I could go in the world of public education and teach art, and I can come up with a curriculum. And I've got a lot of ways that I can kind of check myself and update things. But like, how did you come up with what you thought were the crucial parts? And for lack of a better term, how did you come up with a curriculum that you thought would serve all of your students best?
That's a really good question. I like to consider myself a sponge on things. So like I will go and all the places that I've trained, all the people I've talked to about training, all the people that I respect who are also trainers. These are I'll pick their brain, or like I'll watch how they go about their business, and literally everything in that regard, and kind of take what I know really works, or I'll see something go like that is really not good. And also going back to like my own past of like what I went through with training, and the culture and the importance of, I'll get to the importance of culture of a wrestling school in a moment, but like all the things that I saw that I was like, yeah, this isn't benefiting me or anybody. Why are we doing this? You can't question it then, but you can question it now, and then start to piece it together and go, okay, if that doesn't work, this might work, and all those things. And recognizing what the important things in terms of training are. What is important to me might not be important to somebody else. It's not me saying that my way is the correct way. I just know that my way is what works for me and what has worked for my students. And I tend to put a really strong focus on fundamentals and basics. And once we've got the footwork and, all these little details, in the early stages down to kind of build a really strong foundation, I really kind of take a hands-off approach. Like we were talking about before with, I'm not going to give these guys a name or a gimmick or anything. I'm really going to just step back and go, okay, get creative. And one of my favorite things, there's two of my favorite things I like to do. One is just I tell them, because, they come to like, oh, I had an awful match at this show and they're not going to bring me back. And I'm just always like, man, make mistakes. Make mistakes now, screw up now, and learn from all of these mistakes, because, that's what's going to make you better. If you know not to do this anymore, or if this doesn't work, you're not going to do it again. And one of the other things that I like to tell them, and this is like my big one, and I believe the quote is attributed to Pablo Picasso, but also quotes on the internet are kind of all nonsense. But it's learn the rules like a professional so you can break them like an artist.
Right.
And
I use that all
really,
the time.
Yeah, that's what I like to push on my guys, because, there are a lot of schools and a lot of trainers who are so caught up in this like mindset of, this is the way to do things and you have to learn it this way and go about that. And it's like, yeah, that's cool in your first year so that you don't screw up or hurt yourself or somebody else. But like John Cena runs the ropes. Like if I taught someone how to run the ropes like that, I'd be ashamed of myself. The Rock can't throw a proper headlock takeover. But who gives a damn? Those guys have drawn so much money. Who cares about the way Cena runs ropes, or the way that The Rock gives a headlock takeover, or the fact that like Cena screams his spots out in the ring? Who cares? They're over. So if you're over, none of this stuff matters. And that's what I'd like my kids to be, is over, because that's when you start making money. And, that's what we want to be doing with this. You don't want to beat your body up for nothing.
All right.
I also want to touch on what I was talking about before, about culture, and like creating a culture in a school that is a positive learning environment. And it's something that I think people who broke in when I broke in, and definitely prior, didn't see a lot of. And even now, there's a lot of just really negative, miserable schools. And it's like, to me, if somebody is paying you for a service, that service being, teaching you how to be a professional wrestler, why are you going to be miserable there? Why are they not creating a space where you can be happy and have your own little bubble of like everyone supporting each other and spreading love, also while dropping your friends on their heads? That to me is like the importance of any of this. Like a culture and building a school culture where everybody is supportive and loving and it's inclusive. Like, my God, like that was the big thing for when we created T2T was like, if I'm going to do this, I need my own culture, because other places that I've, that I was training people at, it was just such a negative spot, and like, just very, very narrow minded. And it's like, man, I want to get people of all colors, all sexualities, all gendered. I want everyone to come together and build this kind of family where everyone's going to love and support each other, and we all want each other to succeed. And as you know, I don't care where you're from or how you go about things, but if you are a part, and if you're going to be there, you're going to be part of that culture, and you're going to fall in line with, showing respect and love for your peers. And, I think we've got that, because everybody at a T2T really is just like spreading love everywhere they go. And I couldn't be happier with, how that has been.
Oh, you can see that both in Angelo and Joseph. I mean, every time I see Joseph out, at a show, he's always comes over, shakes my hand, gives me a hug. He's so polite, so polite. Before I get to some comments that we have here, have you ever had to like expel a student or just say like, look, you're not cutting it, you gotta go? I mean, and how do they feel, and how did you feel about that? I mean, it's got to be like terminating someone if you're a boss. How does that make you feel?
So it's funny you ask. I'll give you.
Lou, you got to go. No.
I'll give you a very quick story, and then I'll give you a little bit of a longer one. So recently, somebody had hit up the school about wanting to join, and Tom, who's the guy who's kind of in charge of like, all the emails and stuff like that. Like, yeah, come by, and we'll talk. The guy's trained elsewhere, and then he had posted like a reply to somebody on something where they were posting something really transphobic, and when he had asked again, the response to him was, "Hey, this place isn't for you. Best wishes." Which is honestly, it's how I handle everything at the school. Is again, I don't care what you come in with, but you're going to be respectful of the culture that we have, because that's I don't accept anything else besides that. And you can call it intolerant, but I'm very well going to be intolerant of intolerance. The longer story is there was a kid, I'm not going to mention his name, but he came through and kind of started rubbing everybody the wrong way. But again, my whole, idea behind everything is if you give them time and you show love, you will get love back. But it was a really hard thing, because some people want to come in and they want to train to be wrestlers. They want to, actually learn. And some people only want to do what they think is best. And, I'm not going to say that I'm smarter than anybody in professional wrestling, but I do have 17 years of experience in that I know what you need to do to have a strong foundation. And this person did not want to have that. And they were getting frustrated with the fact that they were getting frustrated with the fact that like they weren't moving past the beginner ring. And they were like, oh, but I could do all these moves and I could do all these high spots. And they were speaking to Big Game Leroy. I don't know if you guys are familiar. You should be if you are. Leroy was a co-trainer at the time. And Leroy had said to them, like, I understand that, and that's great that you can do all that. And Leroy is very, very like calm and respectful and fit in perfectly with that culture. I love him to death. And was very calm with the kid, and just being like, hey, like, we can't move you on if you're not rolling properly, because if we put somebody else's neck in your hands, you're going to be hurt. And this kid started to, get really aggressive with Leroy, which, I don't like that, especially someone being so patient with you. So, in general, I like to think of myself as a very, mild, especially with training. I like to, be strong and like cheer everybody on. But at the same time, there's a place where Logan Black exists in me that doesn't exist in the ring when the cameras are on. And this person happened to see that come out because they were disrespectful to myself and Leroy. And I'm not proud of it. I apologize to the rest of my students, even though literally all of them were like, no, you were justified. And if you weren't going to do it, I might have done it. But I got really aggressive and like physically tossed this person out of the school. Literally like, good night. And it happened. So like, it's less a matter of, I don't care if you disrespect me. I've had plenty of people disrespect me in pro wrestling. It's, That's what happens. But
Mhm.
do not disrespect my school. Do not disrespect the culture, and don't disrespect your peers. It's very important for me. So yes,
Yeah.
we
All
have
right.
had to kick people out.
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
huge. I mean, Big Game Leroy was a guest on our podcast, and he's an awesome dude, and we're all wishing him well on his recovery from his
Absolutely, yeah.
injury right now, and can't wait to see him back in the ring. I think his gimmick is as good as it gets.
Yeah. I
All right.
mean, if there's anybody who should have like a strong niche following of like the cross section of gamers and wrestling people, like Leroy should own that.
Big time.
All right. Joseph Bruin. Good evening, gents. Hey, Joe. How are you? And then we're going to go back up here. And Jack,
Eric
start
says
reading away.
the future is bright with who you are helping produce.
I'd
And
like to think so, Eric.
yeah, and Eric says if you can't, you can't learn if you don't know what to fix. Right.
Truth.
And Chris says, I like the way you think.
Well, I like the way I think too, Chris. Thank you very much.
But it's like you
Another
said, you
question.
really need that foundation before you can worry about diving into the third row. Because if you're gonna kill somebody else doing it, then there's no purpose.
Right. And you try and get that through to some people, and it works for a lot of them. Like, I won't say that I don't have students who come through and they're like, yo, I want to try this move out. Could I try this out? And I'm like, you could barely do this. Like, I'm trying to protect you. And a lot of the times they get it. They're like, no, I understand. And then, like, a few months down the line, they'll ask me, and I'll be super supportive about it because they have built themselves up and they built that foundation. But, I'm not going to allow somebody to hurt somebody else for absolutely no reason.
What was the craziest thing a student asked you to try?
So usually they're not that. I've had kids ask for like, oh, could I do this flip off the top rope? But we have crash pads and all that kind of
Mm.
stuff, and so it's not that big of a deal. The weirdest thing I can give you, I had a kid
There you
come
go.
in, and he was a real nice kid. But he was like, oh, I know you're supposed to be a guy who works stiff. I want you to chop me at the end of training today. And I just look at this kid. I go, what the fuck is wrong? Excuse my language. What is wrong with you? Like, what are you like? And that's not me being like, oh, I'm so tough, I'm going to cave your chest in, which I might have because the kid pissed me off. But like, what's wrong with you? Like, this is we're not supposed to be. Like, are you trying to prove that you're tough, that you could take chops? Because that doesn't make you tough. Like, I'm sorry, that's a really dumb thing to ask. And you're asking, this is the first time you've been in here, and you're asking your trainer to do something like that to you. That's really weird. The kid apologized, and he was a really sweet kid. He's unfortunately no longer with us. He passed away.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Angel Miguel. Nothing but love. Sweet kid. But yeah. Again, these are the things that, like, when sad shit happens in wrestling, this is the stuff that I remember, and it's like, man, Angel, you were a goof, man. I got nothing but love for you.
All right, Jack, I think you might want to read this comment for a
I
little bit.
will. Joseph Bruin says, which area are you based out of?
So, I mean, you'd want to believe that I'm based out of Western Massachusetts because I wrestle there so often.
And you are
I
Western
Western Mass adoptive son. You guys are taking really good care of me. I very much appreciate that. But no, I'm actually based in New York City. I'm in Brooklyn. T2T Wrestling Academy is also in Brooklyn. I spent a lot of years, doing my thing over here, and just the shows, the matches, the wrestlers are just so much better in New England. So that's why I try and kind of keep things out there rather than playing a lot of the nonsense that goes on in New York and New Jersey. There really is. It sucks that there's really no real New York scene. It's all out of New Jersey because the Athletic Commission in New York has absolutely no love for anything that we do. So it is what it is.
I got a question that I should have asked you years ago, especially on Angry Geeks, but it just started cultivating here on Faces and Heels with Jack. Now you're gonna have to think back now, buddy, all the way back 17 years ago.
That might be hard, but we'll see.
I know. What was it like the first time you walked behind the curtain past Gorilla and you saw a sign that said King of Chaos or said Logan Black had your name on it, someone in the crowd held up a sign with your name on it, how did you feel? Whether it was a negative sign or a positive sign, how did that make you feel?
So I believe that this is before the King of Chaos. This
Yeah.
goes back to this is going way back. So this might have been like my second year or so, but I was part of a tag team. I adopted the tag team name as my nickname, and we were known as the American Nightmare. And there was something against us at like a local show that we were doing. So of course, being we were not good. We were young and listening to the wrong people. But you get heel as you go. You yell at the sign, you rip it up. I'm such a bad guy, and it's like, if I was, I doubt it's on film or like on DVD somewhere. But if I saw that, I'd probably cringe, like cringe into myself.
You're like, Lewis, you don't happen to have that footage? No, I don't think so. No.
Now this would be going in like real deep to like a Jersey show that probably drew like 30 people.
Okay. Well, what did the sign say? Do you remember?
It was like something. I mean, it probably was something closer to the American Nightmare sucks, or it was something like basic and weak, or like I just remember it being like something against us. I remember us like going at it and ripping it up like we were, really badass,
Okay. We have another comment from Joseph.
Joseph says, nice. Who are some of the talent from the New England area that you look up to that came before you?
Oh man, talking about coming up before me. So some of the old school New England talent that like, I think, I mean, the thing is, there's a lot of those guys who are still working right now that I've had the benefit of working with, like Brian Malonis. Like Malonis got started, I think, a little bit before I did. And I think Brian Malonis is absolutely brilliant wrestler. Steve Bradley, everybody talks about, because Steve Bradley is just legendary in the area. I'll give massive props to all the women that were wrestling when I was breaking in, because all like the workhorses were all out of New England. Nikki Rocks and Portuguese Princess Ariel, and there are others. I want to say Cindy Rogers, I think, was a Connecticut worker. But like this was like the Shimmer roster from like 1 through 10, and like I was so motivated watching those Shimmer DVDs when I was just breaking in. So like a lot of that really kept me going. I would sit there, I would take notes on all those things because they were doing stuff that I'd never seen before. So yeah, those would be the ones from the area before me that inspired me.
All right. We have a first-time viewer coming up. Jack?
Colin says, I will still never forget my first time seeing Logan. The first time I saw him was I was an instant fan, and I enjoy seeing him at every show and getting a chance to interact with you.
Well, that's awesome to hear, Colin. Thank you very much. I think it's crazy because we talk about cultures when you're breaking in and stuff, and I was always told, you never interact with the fans. They're customers, and they pay, and that's it. And man, I came out of punk rock, and you're on the same level as the people at all times. You're playing on the same level. Your merch is on the same level. Everybody's just, you're building a community, and that's how I've always looked at it. And like I don't like going about things otherwise. If you're going to support me, I'm going to show you love, and that's how I go about it. So I'll always interact with fans that come up and just want to chat. I would love for you. I mean, I don't even have shirts. I would say, oh, buy a shirt. And I was like, I don't even have shirts anymore. But like, come by to show some love. That's all I need at this point.
Dude, I tell you what, when I was brought in where we first met to do what I had to do, you were one of the guys that I was like very timid to approach because you have this aura around you when you're at a show. And the promoter was like, okay, you need to talk to him, you need to talk to him, you need to talk to him. And I was like, I don't think he's gonna want to talk to me. Because you were teaming, you were part of the East Coast Master Crew. And I was like, I don't think they want to talk to me, but I'll go over. I was gonna send a guy that I used to be with over there. And I was like, but I'll go see what happens. But it was just magic on camera. I mean, the interaction was just so perfect. And, it was just like, wow, that guy's super awesome. And then watching you interact with the fans, especially when in the ring, it was like a flip of the switch, totally different. I mean, you just super got it. I mean, you have people eating out of your hand every show.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially now that like my body is completely beat up and useless for the most part, I like to think that like that's what I do have is that I'm very good with being able to work in with people's thoughts and emotions and kind of work with that. So eating out of the palm of my hand is exactly what I want because the palm of my hand is pretty much the only working body part I've got.
So how come no more merch?
So to be brutally honest, I had a merch guy who was great and he quit and I haven't been able to kind of find anyone. I'm working on some stuff here and there. But like I don't know. So like again, truth be told, like I'm recognizing that I am on my way down of like the crazy schedule that I used to have. You know, my body can't keep up with, 2-3 times a weekend at this point. I got a 2-year-old at home that like I really am enjoying.
I didn't want to. I was gonna
Yeah,
ask. I
like,
always ask how the baby is. I always do, but I didn't want to.
yeah,
I
sure, I
wasn't sure if
appreciate
I should
that.
pull back the curtain.
Yeah,
I wasn't sure if I should pull back the curtain. So I'm like, do I ask or
yeah.
should I wait till the show is over?
I'm really enjoying, watching her grow up, and you don't want to be missing too much of that. So I'm slowing down my schedule a bit, and for me at this point, like, I'm in that way, like I am very protective of like what it's ridiculous for me to say like a legacy would be, but I think my legacy is through my students who, again, even just the two that you guys have had on are way better than I could ever imagine to be in all aspects of professional wrestling. Let alone all the other kids waiting in the wings to get their, the first set of eyes on them. So yeah, my bookings are a bit more limited at this point. So I am working on. I've got a excuse me. I've got a new shirt in the works that might be the last bit of merch that I ever print. But we shall see. I'm not sure. I'm kind of honestly right now between the dates that I have and the training and like all my other like side ventures of things that I love to do. My time is limited to be able to work out all this stuff with teacher people who could be very unreliable, so to speak.
Okay, fair enough. Jack?
All right. Well, you talked a lot about culture, which I think is so huge, no matter where you are, whether you're in a classroom, a dojo, whatever. And you've been around doing this a long time. How would you say the culture of professional wrestling in general has changed? And I know, you've been all over the place. But I really look at promotions like Blitzkrieg and Wrestling Open, who have a really clear verbal way of telling fans that we don't accept certain things at these shows. There's no hate speech. That just isn't tolerated. But I'm imagining that you've seen a real shift over the years. Like, could you talk about that?
Absolutely. And I think, you mentioned about Wrestling Open and Blitzkrieg kind of having these like unspoken codes of conduct. I think that's great when you could have an unspoken code of conduct and people just know to like, hey, don't show up and be an idiot. And what do you call it? I'm wearing their interspecies wrestling. I'm wearing their hoodie right now. They even say before shows, hey, we've got rules here. Don't be an asshole. And that's it. Everyone cheers it. In the shows that we run in Brooklyn, we have a very clear code of conduct that we lay out. I lay it out during the meetings before the shows, and then the announcer lays it out once the people are in there before the show starts of like, we are not going to deal with any of this. If you decide to pull this, you will be escorted by the locker room out of the show. And I think that's something that I couldn't imagine having seen at all early on. Or even 10 years ago, it's not something that you saw a whole lot of. I certainly think there were places that put that culture, in the forefront, but they didn't have to be, they didn't have to be so like out there about it because nobody was really doing that. I think the culture of wrestling when I broke in still had a lot of those old school bullies. It still had a lot of the negativity, a lot of the cutthroat nature, a lot of the, I'm the guy who I have the look of what they want on TV, so I'm going to look down and be crappy to like anybody else who's not like that, or like people who are, I'm getting booked on indies, so I can just be awful to you. Yeah, it was just a lot of nonsense that I don't think I don't think you see a lot of anymore in the same way. I think people are looking to help each other more. I think people are a lot healthier too. I think I saw something about this on Twitter either today or yesterday where they were talking about like the drug culture is very different than it was, even 10 years ago, but like we're going back, 20 years, 30 years. Not to say that there's no drugs in wrestling, there certainly are plenty, but the point being is that it's not a culture that is encouraging abuse of anything. I think a lot of people are smarter. I think people are a bit more educated. I think the motivation to make a living out of this is different than it once was. I think careers are shorter in a better way, in that you don't see people, you don't see people destroy. And I hate to use the example because he's not a bad person, but like someone like a Greg Valentine, who was wrestling since the early 70s and is still taking bookings here and there. And unfortunately, the guy can barely walk. And this is not me putting him down because he's put the time and the miles in. But like, you don't see that out of like this generation. You see people, they come in, they get their time, they do what they want to do, and they step away. And if there's a market for them, years after they've been on TV to then come back and do some shows, they do. I think Alex Shelley is an excellent example of that, where like Alex Shelley had his time to shine on TNA and Impact, and then like really took a number of years off, and now he's back, back and like working select indie bookings, and he's in better shape than he was then, and he's just as good as he was. And I think that's your difference now, is that the culture is not squeeze this lemon until there's no juice left. It's drink your juice, and then if you want some more, hey, we could always get another lemon.
All right. Eric says he needs a new Logan Black.
Eric has
t-shirt.
every single Logan Black shirt that has ever been made. I can always count on Eric to, whenever I've got something new, and come up to say, "Oh, what do you got new?" And for a long time, I didn't have anything, but hopefully, I get these shirts made. Eric will be the first one to grab them.
All right, now Chris is a indie guy in the Rhode Island area. He is a personal friend of mine as well. He works with me at comic conventions. He brings up a good question. He says he loved to get some work in Brooklyn. How does someone send you some tapes or send you some stuff to get booked out in your neck of the woods?
Because of the way the athletic commission is set up, we technically don't run shows in Brooklyn. Everything that you are seeing is a mirage. It's
it's an illusion.
The man behind the curtain. We run what we do is what we do. I'm always looking at people. It's Tom, again, the guy from T2T, who kind of runs a lot of stuff. Those are his to put together. But this goes out to literally anybody. If you're interested in, getting booked anywhere, sending a match and a resume, or sending a message to, any promoter is a good way to start. Just
remember, this is on the internet, so it's not true.
Well, I'm giving general advice, nothing specific, but
Yes. Uh-oh. It's time. Jack, it's time. It is time for old school trivia.
Oh,
are you ready? And it's brought to you by Alternate Universe LLC, where tomorrow is a new comic book day, and this Saturday is free comic book day. Make sure you stop by and see Eric and the guys get some free comic books this Saturday, but don't forget tomorrow is new comics. Go there, get some new comic books, and get your subscriptions. Make sure you get them filled. Get a pull box, but just go there, get some back issues, get some toys, get some statues down in the New Haven store, get some of those graded slabs. Jack, are you ready?
As ready as
Logan,
I ever am.
Are you ready?
I hope so.
All right. Since you are the guest, Logan, you go first. And you can see if you can get this question. Now, mind you, this is a trick question this week. Who ended the perfect streak?
Ooh, that's a hard one.
Who ended the perfect streak? Logan, who ended the perfect streak?
That's a That's a hard one. Geez. This is purely a guess, but I'm going to guess Hogan.
Wrong. Jack, who ended the perfect
Oh.
streak?
Oh man, this is a tough one, man. Oh my god, where do you come up with this?
My brain. My
Yeah,
brain. Who
yeah.
ended the perfect streak?
You got a unique brain. So I'm pretty sure I'm wrong about this.
Hold on 1 second. Eric Hunting. You're wrong.
I also think I'm joining the wrong club, but Bret the Hitman Hart.
Jack, you are wrong. My God, no points for anyone. The answer is Brutus the Barber Beefcake,
What?
April 1st, 1990 on
Yikes.
WWF television. It is the first time this streak has been broken. Jack, do
That was
you
not.
know what this means? Do you know what this means,
It
Jack?
means insult to injury. That was my birthday.
Jack, Jack. Let's see exactly what this means for Jack. We're going to spin the wheel, make the deal, and see what the soundboard comes up with
Uh-oh.
for Jack. And what does the board have to say?
How you doing? I haven't talked to you in forever.
Oh.
I got off easy. I'll take that.
Yes, you did. You got off very, very easy. And that is.
Hey, congratulations. Somebody famous now hates you.
Ah.
Well, I am doing this
And
signing with Jake the Snake Roberts on Saturday, and if he doesn't like the print I did, he might hate me. So that could be
yes,
prophecy.
and yes, Chris, it was Brutus the Barber Beefcake.
Okay.
He had the first win over Mr. Perfect on WWF television.
Oh,
Brutus.
That's unfortunate.
that is unfortunate.
Yes. And Eric Hunting says, "Who booked that shit?"
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Vince McMahon.
Yeah. Jeez. Good Lord.
All right, let's get
Logan,
back
I
to
want to
Logan.
make sure I squeeze this in. I'm going to kind of try and shoehorn it in because we're running out of time, and I wanted to be able to talk a little bit of comics with you as well. So
Ooh, yes.
I know you're a busy guy. You've talked a lot about what's occupying a whole lot of your time, but do you still have time to watch pro wrestling every week? And if so, what? And shoehorning this in to segue, do you read any comics? Do you have a favorite character or comic that you read?
So I can't watch weekly wrestling. What I do catch up with is like segments or matches here and there. I usually try and keep up with like friends of mine who are like, signed or like different points or like, matches that my students will have that I'll try and watch. I try and watch as much as I can, but it's not very easy. There's too much wrestling week to week. In terms of reading comics, I have a massive pull list every week. Currently, I think the best series that I've been enjoying, honestly, and I know it's no surprise, is going to be Wolverine. The stuff that they've been doing with Wolverine
I think I wore this.
is honestly, it's a really dark, disturbing Wolverine story, and I love what they're doing with Wolverine. Moon Knight is another big favorite of mine. The current run is going back to the old school, like first run where Moon Knight's just taking on all these monsters and vampires and things like that. So that's really fun. I picked up this weekend a slab Moon Knight #1. I was really excited about that.
Nice.
Really? What's the score?
8.5. It's not hold on, it's literally right next to me. Not particularly a great one, but also for what I paid for it.
Hold on, bring it back up. Bring it back up.
8.5 Moon Knight.
8.5. Good for you.
This is an upgrade to the one that I already have that's not slabbed. So I was very excited about that. This is also my first slab book. So
really,
yes, I'm way more of like I want to just keep it raw collecting because I feel
yeah, that's what we talked about this. I too. I mean, I do have some slab books in my collection, but it's like no, I rather all the slab books that I have are gifts. People, I got this for. I was like, no. I need them out. All mega thousand of them that I have. I need them out. I mean, you had virtual tours of the lair before, but
Sure.
it's just growing bigger and bigger. I mean,
Right.
you see the back; it's just moving forward. And I mean, I got like at least 400 books that I got a bagging board right now. It's just crazy.
I trust me. I hear that after conventions on the weekend. I literally like I came down here to open this up, and I brought down all the stuff that I got from this weekend, and it's just like, man, it's gonna be a
I'm going
long
to be
night.
in Philly. I'm going to be in Philly. Angry Geeks will be in Philly this weekend, Friday,
Nice, nice.
Saturday, and Sunday. So yeah, Contrapulus, Pennsylvania, and
Hell
I
yeah.
can't wait to that. So
So
it's just
Logan,
going to be
can I share a couple of my favorites? Because I actually
Go
pulled
for
some
it,
of
dude.
my favorites. And I spent a lot of years working for DC, and I love Batman. He's like always been and will be my favorite. And I'm guessing you probably like Mark Silvestri's work, especially because he did a lot of great Wolverine related storylines and X-Men. But he's doing a 7-issue series of Batman called Batman and the Joker, the Deadly Duo. And then the last of the 7 issues comes out next month. But this has been really cool to see Mark Silvestri come back, and a lot of cool Batman Joker dynamic in it. And if you like any of Greg Capullo's stuff, which he's like one of my favorite Batman artists, especially currently, I think you really dig this. And then a lot of non-Batman stuff. My opinion, and I'm not big on favorites, but if I had to choose who I think is the best artist in comics, it's Frank Quitely. And he did All-Star Superman, which was just maybe the best Superman ever. But he's doing something with Mark Miller called The Ambassadors, and Netflix sort of seems to own Mark Miller right now, but
Yeah.
they published through Image. This is so good. I urge you to pick this up at some point if you wait for the trade. But Travis Charest, who did a bunch of stuff for, mostly, I guess, DC and Image, did his first full comic book in like 21 years. He does the artwork for the Ambassadors #3. So can't urge you strongly enough. Like, check that out.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna grab that one on trade because it sounds great. I mean, Image has really been when it comes to like their like off hero stories and just doing like miniseries like that. They're just killing it left and right. I think there's a couple of different production houses that are just coming out with this just really unique stuff, and Image is certainly there.
Yeah, and I don't know if you buy any stuff through Kickstarter, but there's some really great stuff going on. Like JM DeMattis, I don't know if I'm saying his name perfectly, but there's a couple new ones that he's come out with. There's like 4 new titles, and this Layla book has an alternate cover by J.H. Williams, who did Promethea. He did a bunch of stuff on Batwoman, and then what do we have here? What's the other one? Oh, Anyman. Yeah, I haven't even read these yet, but these were through Kickstarter, and some of my favorite stuff I've been getting lately has been through Kickstarter.
Yeah, I think that's the next step in a lot of this is where like I mean it's similar to Hollywood where like you can rehash the same ideas left and right, but to get something truly unique or interesting or someone's very different take on a character, you got to go independent. I know my local shop does a lot of stuff with like putting out real indie books and like a bunch of Kickstarter books as well.
Mhm.
They're very plugged into the underground.
Nice.
Well, you gotta support the indie books. Any new book that I buy is an indie book because right now I'm going back. I'm hitting the tag sales. I'm hitting the flea markets. I'm making old ladies eat out of cat food cans because I mean Jack will tell you, dude. And I'm sure you saw my Facebook post. I'll go to a flea market. I'll go to a tag sale, and I'm finding gems. And then like our sponsor, Eric Yako of alternate universe, he laughs because he's like, he came with me on a hunt, and he's like, I can't believe you just did that. I'm like, and I'm like laughing. Oh, Pod TV's president. Hi, Kim. How are you? Um, and they're like laughing at me because I'm like walking away with like one of my great newest finds, Nick Fury, Agent of Shield, Volume 1, Issue 13. I got it for like $3, and I'm like just walking away to the bank with it. That's what I'm doing. I'm looking for that. But any new stuff, I am just indie stuff, from a friend at a con. That's the way to go. Because the new stuff is a lot of rehash stuff, but I'm just rebuilding my collection or filling in the gaps for my collection as I go.
Right. No, I think I mean, also as I've seen with a lot of the indie stuff that I get, I go to 2 local shops and kind of split my stuff between there because I'm trying to support as much as I can. But both places, whenever there's anything wrestling related, they'll always throw it my way. And there's been a couple of indie books over the last few years that have come out I thought were brilliant. Crimson Cage, I thought was excellent. If you guys can get your hands, that's in trade right now. Do a
That's
Power
a
Bomb.
Comixology digital. Yeah, I read that. That's
Yeah,
on.
do a Power Bomb is great. There's one that my local guy got me hooked on called The Gimmick. I have issue number 2, literally sitting here getting ready to go away.
Yep,
This issue number
that
2
is also on Comixology, and
Yeah.
I read that as well.
Yeah, Ahoy Comics, and another indie distributor, just killing it with everything they're putting out. But yeah, literally anything wrestling related, I'm going to read and just check out because it is what it is, and there's a lot of indie spots that are doing those.
Yeah, Logan, it's perfect segue because next week, if you get a chance, if you're around next week, we've got a really cool creator for this Kickstarter pro wrestling indie book called IWF, Intergalactic Wrestling Federation #1. It's really cool. And so he's going to be on next week talking about it. So if you're around, it's like, sorry. And his last name's Black. So the segue couldn't be more
Is
complete.
he related? No. All right, we are just about almost out of time. We got 4 minutes left. I want to give Logan some time to promote the school, promote the dojo, rather, promote himself. Let us know where some of his star pupils are going to be in the future for bookings, where Logan's going to be booked, and then Jack, talk about your appearance this week, talk about where the Angry Geeks are going to be this week, and so Logan, the floor is yours, sir.
Sure, and I'm going to start this out by opening up my calendar to be able to, read off where.
And that's all we have. No.
No, guys, thank you for having me on. So, I mean, on all social media, if you're interested in following me and what I do, it's at King of Chaos NYC. Just the comings and goings of shows I'll be on. I think, where am I going to be? I've got Blitzkrieg Pro on May 12th, May 13th. I'll also be in Western Massachusetts for PvP shows that are going on then. Where else am I going to be? I think that's it for May, but I've got Tetsu Pro coming up in June. That's another one in New England. And just, again, keep your eyes peeled to my social media for all that kind of stuff. And the other thing, if I'll put over the school, T2T Wrestling Academy. Find that on all social media. We're posting up all this cool stuff of what we're doing in training and what everyone's learning, and just finding all the personalities in the school all over our social media. TikTok. We're trying to build a TikTok. So if you're on that, hop on in. And then real quick, if I could hype Queens Comic Party and Brooklyn Comic Party. It's myself and my buddy Billy Bombs kind of putting together, small conventions, or not even that small at this point. Just trying to, build a community of comic book fans and nerds and all that kind of stuff. The next show we have in Brooklyn is going to be June 11th. It's a Sunday. So if anybody is willing to come down to a convention out of New England, it's really good stuff. A lot of really great comic book stuff. And again, thank you guys so much for letting me come on here and promote my stuff.
You are welcome. Jack, tell everybody where they can get some good art and where you're going to be this weekend.
Yeah, this weekend's going to be fun. Free Comic Book Day is going to be on Saturday, May 6th, right after May the 4th be with you. A little Star Wars celebration, moving into comics. So I am going to be signing with Jake the Snake Roberts at Zombie Hideout in Springfield, Massachusetts. I'll be there from 11 to 3. I think Jake's there from noon to 3. Joe St. Pierre and Dave Calabrese are also 2 awesome artists who are going to be there with me. So it should be a lot of fun. If you're near Zombie Hideout, come on by. I got a new Jake the Snake print that's going to be perfect timing for this signing. So if you're interested, come pick that up, get it signed. I've also got the first of my trading cards that I've put together. We got a couple of these bad boys here. They're really limited. So if you're into trading cards, I'm just starting some pro wrestling stuff. And there's a few more of those coming out that I'll be announcing in May and June. Commissions, I'll be available. So if you're around, hit me up. I'm Jack Purcell Inc., as you can see over here somewhere on social media. And I'll be doing some other appearances I'll announce later. Lewis, where are we going to find you this weekend?
Well, this weekend I'm going to be at Contropolis, Pennsylvania, with the Angry Geeks crew. We're going to be doing all the moderating on panels, walking the floor. You'll be shaking babies and kissing elbows and doing all kinds of stuff that only the Angry Geeks do at conventions. And then every Monday night, you can find me with my sister from another mister and our sidekick, that Wonder Woman Jamie Dolan, and Emily, a.k.a. Quinderella, on the Angry Geek Show, which you can find on Pod TV, your public access television stations, Bridgewater, Warren, Ware, South Hadley, Greenfield, and all those other stations. You can find us all over social media. And you know what? You can also find Faces and Heels in the same exact places that I just mentioned. Or just go to the angrygeeksshow.com. Find us there as well. And links all over the place is going to bring you to where you can watch this video again. And if you can't watch it because you're driving, you just click that little link and it's going to bring you to wherever your favorite podcasts are found. And you can listen to us there. And Kim, love you. Big hug to you too. So with that being said, we got to go because the hour is up. Find us on Pod TV. So we will see you guys later. You have been watching The Angry Geek Show on Pod TV. Visit our website today. And for guest bookings, email us at theangrygeekshow@gmail.com today.